Hello, I am Professor Kino, and welcome to my Office of Cinematic Antiquity. Today we will be continuing the series of my top 10 favorite films. Coming in at number 5 is... Typically, when a film is directed by Darren Aronofsky, there are two things that can be expected. It will be experimental/artsy, and it will be controversial. And his 2006 film, The Fountain, is no different. After a complicated production that shifted its leads from Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett to Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz, it received a very lukewarm reception and made back only about half of its $35 million budget. Some critics, such as Richard Roeper, even went so far as to pronounce The Fountain to be one of the worst films of 2006. Strangely, this was not the last nail in this film's coffin. Normally, when a film receives middling reviews and garners a low box office intake, it is quickly forgotten to time. But The Fountain was not. Instead, over the past dozen years, the film has gained a cult following, and its reception has slowly risen to be more positive, up to the point that several film critics now place it as one of the most underrated, if not best, films of the mid-2000s. Premise: The Fountain features three interconnected but very distinct stories that all deal with the theme of everlasting life. One story takes place in Spain around 1500, where a conquistador seeks to save Queen Isabella from the encroaching influence of the Spanish Inquisition. Another takes place in the year 2000, where a scientist is seeking to discover a cure for his wife's quickly worsening brain tumor. And the final story takes place in the year 2500, out in space, where a pioneer/pathfinder is trying to bring a dying tree to the nebula Xibalba. Each story features a man, a conquistador, a scientist, and a pathfinder, on a quest to save the one he loves, his queen, his wife, and his mission, from encroaching death, the Inquisition, a tumor, and time. Through their respective journeys, each man's path coincides, and together they come to a revelation about life, death, and the true meaning of immortality. Writing. To a viewer who comes into this movie without expectations, this film's writing will probably be confusing, because the three stories that play out across the film's runtime are not presented in a chronological manner. Instead, each story is returned to suddenly, and sometimes the stories even play out in tandem. And to make matters more frustrating to those seeking easy answers, The Fountain refuses to ease its viewers into this structure. Instead, the film begins in medias res and does not divulge its intent in a straightforward manner. And understandably, for some this will be too much, and I can see many people turning off the film within the first 20 minutes because of its narrative overload. However, for those who get intrigued by it and stick around, The Fountain eventually provides enough clues to help its audience unpackage its meaning and purpose. Thus, for fans of this film, or even just for folks who want to try and understand it better, repeat viewings are not only a recommendation, but a requirement. Nevertheless, even though this film can be deciphered, its lack of clarity does lead to differing interpretations. The following will focus on my personal interpretation of the film. If you happen to think differently, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know your differing perspectives, and I think they could lead to some excellent conversations. For me, while it would be easy to say that this film is just one continuous narrative told in a non-consecutive manner, that would make the film lose its purpose, one about accepting the inevitability of death and acknowledging the bittersweet beauty of it. It would be nice to say that the two main characters stay with each other for 1,000 years and eventually transcend the physical realm together, but that would make all the emotional scenes feel pointless. No, in actuality, the only real story is the one that takes place in the year 2000, while the two other stories are merely the differing perspectives of the contemporary events through the eyes of the two main characters. The story taking place in 2000 features scientist Tom Creo as he struggles to find a cure for his wife Izzy's brain tumor before she dies. Tom labors away in his lab, doing trial after trial and continuously coming up empty-handed. Except, he refuses to give up hope and believes that the cure that will allow his wife to live with him for the rest of his days lies right around the corner.
Death is a disease. It's like any other. And there's a cure. A cure. And I will find it.
To accomplish this, however, he stays at work more than he stays with Izzy. He can't face her because he can't face her potential death.
She's alone?
She needs to rest.
Tommy, no one invents new drugs overnight. No one. You're not being rational. You can't fix everything.
Don't tell me what I can and can't do.
Your wife needs you. Why are you...
Why the fuck do you think I'm here?
Izzy, on the other hand, is less swayed by science and is more into spirituality. She accepts death and is slowly able to overcome her fear of it. It is revealed that before the events of the film, she took a trip down to Central America with a Mayan guide to visit Mayan ruins and learn about their ancient culture, and she was moved by some of the beliefs that were revealed to her. Namely, that existence was created when a man sacrificed himself to give life.
His body became the tree's roots. They spread and formed the earth. His soul became the branches rising up, forming the sky. All that remained was first father's head. His children hung it in the heavens, creating Xibalba.
Xibalba? The star? The nebula?
So what do you think?
About?
That idea. Death as an act of creation.
Unfortunately, Tom does not want to accept these beliefs because in doing so, he would need to come to terms with the fact that Izzy is actually going to die, and he can't accept it. Consequently, the rest of the film is about Tom and Izzy coming to grip with the inevitability of death and then dealing with the emotional ramifications of that conclusion. The two parallel stories, the one in 1500 and the one in 2500, are there to showcase each character's differing perspectives on their current event. The storyline that takes place in 1500 is revealed quite clearly to be a story written by Izzy. The brain tumor is replaced with the ever-spreading Inquisition and its slow dominance over Spain. Izzy sees Tom as her conquistador, someone who is devoted to her and is doing everything that he can to help her. However, in the process, he distances himself from her and focuses his entire attention on the quest to save her. This drives him a little mad and gives him tunnel vision, and Izzy fears that her death will irreparably affect him. Although she is hopeful that he will eventually see the flaws and danger in his methodology and ideology and hopes that he will change his ways and perspective, she leaves that decision up to him. She does not write the end of her story and allows Tom to be the author of its last chapter, the chapter that takes place after Izzy's death, when Tom must come to grips with it and what it means.
It's all done except the last chapter. I want you to help me.
How?
Finish it. Finish it.
I don't know how it ends.
You do. You will.
Alternatively, the story in the year 2500 is Tom's perspective of events. He sees himself as a pathfinder or a pioneer flying through space toward Xibalba in the hope that he will find untapped secrets and discoveries. His mission is to save the tree that he is transporting. In this story, the tree takes the place of Izzy, and instead of fighting a tumor, they are merely racing against time and the fear of failure. Tom continuously goes about ritualistic motions in the attempt to push on to his destination together with his tree so that they can tap into the powers of Xibalba. Except, Tom does not truly know what Xibalba means. He thinks it'll provide the answer to save people from death. In actuality, it is the catalyst to the next stage of existence, eternity. It is not until the end that Tom is able to come to terms with the inevitability of Izzy's death. Tom finally sheds off his ignorant and narrow-minded views and reaches a form of enlightenment, where he can see death not as an ending, but as the next step toward eternity.
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Together we will live forever.
And because of this, he is finally able to reach a form of nirvana regarding death. He is no longer frightened by it. In the end, he finally understands what living forever really means. It is not something physical, but something emotional and spiritual. Acting. When it comes to acting, there are only two actors that really need to be discussed. Hugh Jackman, who plays Tom Creo in his respective incarnations, and Rachel Weisz, who plays Izzy Creo in her respective incarnations. As for Jackman, this is his best performance by far, apart from maybe Logan, and he gives this role his all. He is visually determined and narrow-minded, but in a way that is commendable and beautiful. And when he does the film's emotional scenes, his performance is heart-wrenching, and he gives me chills every single time. He is perfect here. And as for Rachel Weisz, she is equally amazing. She plays someone who is calm and spiritually ready for death's embrace in such a beautiful and saddening way. You can see that she is nervous about what lies beyond, but also that she is slightly excited for it. And what's even more amazing about her performance is that she is able to show a fear in her eyes, not of death, but a fear for her husband, a fear that he is in pain from her death more than she is. And in the end, both Jackman's and Weiss's performances play off each other in spectacular ways that really pull the whole film together, both thematically and emotionally.
Yes, Lily. I could be buried at our farm.
No, stop it. I want you to be with me.
I am with you. Look. I'll always be with you.
Costumes, hair, and makeup. When it comes to the film's costumes, hair, and makeup, they are all well done throughout. Each storyline is filled with period-accurate costumes and hair that each gives the storyline a distinct feel. The costumes, hair, and makeup in the 1500 storyline, for instance, make it all feel like a period piece. The ones in the 2000 storyline make it all feel very modern, and the ones in the 2500 storyline make it all feel mystical and strange. While I do not find any of them to be particularly jaw-dropping, they are all well done for what they are supposed to be. However, I do want to bring up the practical effects here because they are very good. One standout is a knife wound which looks realistic, and the other is the sprouting of flowers that, while not perfect, are very uniquely done. In general, it is always just refreshing to see effects done practically instead of with CGI. Set design. Despite a few unique-looking sets, that of the Mayan Pyramid and that of Tom's 2500 orb vessel, there is nothing very standout here. The 1500 storyline jumps from castles to rainforests to palace rooms to Mayan pyramids to dungeons. The 2000 storyline jumps from medical labs to Tom and Izzy's house to a hospital to a museum to a farm, and the 2500 storyline just stays put in Tom's futuristic orb vessel. Each set piece does its job, but none of it is jaw-dropping in and of itself, only in how they are used and shot, both of which will be covered in the cinematography section. Choreography. When it comes to action, there are only two scuffles throughout the film. One is in the beginning and one is near the end. They are both serviceable. Neither of them are particularly amazing, but they are not hard to follow either. They simply are, and there is nothing wrong with that. Cinematography. This is one of the film's strongest points. Many of the shots in this film are gorgeous, haunting, or both. The way the scenes are shot in the 1500 storyline are brilliant, particularly when it features the Mayan pyramid and near its end when Tom reaches the Tree of Life. These scenes showcase feelings of wonderment perfectly. Additionally, the scenes involving the Inquisition and the Grand Inquisitor are creepy and foreboding, and that is particularly through the way the lighting is used and the way the camera angles are set up. While the lighting is not always perfect in the film, for instance, I find the first scene to be a little too dark, it is generally well done, especially in the last 30 minutes. And the way pretty much every scene in the 2500 storyline is shot is breathtaking as well. These scenes continuously drive home the message of enlightenment and reaching nirvana, and the last 30 minutes of the film is just a continuous barrage of beautiful shots that all flow together perfectly, lock you in your seat, mesmerize you, and bring you awe. Editing. This is another standout aspect of this film. A film with multiple storylines can get very convoluted and confusing very quickly if they are not edited together efficiently, and the way that the scenes transition between and through the storylines here is beautiful. Each overlap and connect in unique and gorgeous ways that are just impeccable. It gives me chills just thinking about it. CGI. While there's not as much CGI as one might expect upon watching the film, there definitely is some, mostly green screen wise, and most notably in the 2500 storyline and nearing the end of the film. While it is relatively good for the most part, it is noticeable when it does come on. Is it distracting? No, but you can tell where it is most of the time. However, it does do tasks that I'm not sure would have been possible with practical effects, so I cannot really fault the film for using it. And despite its noticeability, all of it is still very mesmerizing. Music. Clint Mansell creates a mystical and beautiful score that is equally soothing, exhilarating, and mysterious. When you listen to it, it feels like you are listening to the sounds of nature and life itself, and it feels like you are being transported through time and space. It makes you happy and sad and hopeful and confused all at once, and it is wondrous. Mansell did a phenomenal job. direction. When all the parts of this movie come together, it creates a beautiful story about love and the inevitability of death, but how that is not necessarily a sad thing. While not for everyone, which should be a slogan on all of Aronofsky's films, because of its convoluted story structure, for those that are willing to let go and completely immerse themselves in it, this film is simply a beautiful love story about a difficult topic that contains some bravura performances, beautiful cinematography, and a phenomenally gorgeous score. My enjoyment. This is my favorite Aronofsky film. I saw it for the first time in a film studies class about 3.5 years ago, and it captivated me from my first viewing of it. While I was not fully able to decipher the film upon this initial viewing, I have seen it countless times since then and have grown to love it more and more. It is beautiful, it is mesmerizing, it is wondrous, and I love every minute of it. Recommendations. This film is packed to the brim with beauty and emotion, so if you're interested in seeing a film with gorgeous emotion, great acting, and a beautiful score, look no further and watch this film. However, if you are not interested in feeling confused in the face of a spectacle that refuses to give up its meanings without hard thought, then perhaps this film is not for you. However, as always with my personal favorite films, I will encourage everyone to give this one a try. If you can get immersed in it, you will be in for one amazing journey. Thanks for watching, I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I will be continuing the series of my top 10 favorite films in my next video. Until then, I'm Professor Kino, and I look forward to our next discussion.